Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends! It's Christmas and I am Meri AF. I'm also drinking some wonderful Christmas coffee. You know I need that to keep myself going. I had a really good time last night. We put the Christmas tree together and my husband was home for about 24 hours. Most of you who know me know I don't really drink very often, but last night I really wanted a break, so I got a little bit relaxed an awful lot, did the Christmas tree, had a lot of fun, and those were all good times. But in the midst of all of it, I keep coming back to the sister wives, to polygamy, keep coming back to polygamy. And I wanted to share with you, not only do I want to talk about more about the tell-all, but I also want to bring into the mix what Meri was saying about this family years ago. We need to compare and contrast.
To do things and ask me to be a certain way, or ask me to fix a situation, or ask me to share some information with them, or whatever. All these things to be able to fix our relationship. And I did every one of the things that he asked me to.
So that dynamic is one of the most confusing parts about narcissistic abuse, is the little fleas that crawl all over you, and then you do stuff that you really didn't think you were capable of. But if you do that, he might love me again. Oh, I'm not making fun. I'm like 5 years fresh off of the same situation, so we're good. Destroyed my entire life for this dude. Did everything he told me to, and lost everything because of it. The guilt that I hold because of the person that I was when I was in that person's orbit is so heavy, and I feel like I will carry a part of it until the day I die.
I didn't know everything that is available and talked about in this book about Meri and Kody's relationships and all the relationships among the women. You definitely get a different take, a different insight from reading this book. Many of you have probably read it, but we're going to take a look at it now and kind of interweave it with what's been going on in this tell-all and everything that has been brought to the table in the most recent episode. All right, so in this book, Becoming Sister Wives, Kody writes the prologue, but chapter 1 is specifically focused on Meri and Kody and their love story.
Yeah,
It's our anniversary.
okay.
I got our passports out for Mexico too.
I'm looking forward to that. He's gonna do something really nice for me because I told him he had to.
Yeah. No, I got this one. I've got this one. In spite of the fact we're going to dinner, we're going to Mexico.
Let's learn about Meri. Like, where is she coming from? I guess we don't always hear all of that on the show, or maybe it gets lost because there are 18 seasons to go through. And most of you know I was heavily invested in the first few seasons, and after that, I kind of faded. You know, as things became a little more fake to me, I faded out from all of this. All right. So Meri supposedly writes this chapter, and she lets us know about her life growing up in California, where she grew up with both parents who were LDS and they were devout followers of the church, but they were not living polygamy. Until, according to Meri, Meri's mother had a friend who left the LDS church to go ahead and seek out living polygamy, and Meri's mother became very interested in following this very close female friend to go live polygamy. Interesting. Out in Utah, like wanted to go out, be in the community, and end up living polygamy like this very close female friend. Quite interesting for me. I don't want to read too much into everything, but you know how I am. I'm really questioning what is going on here, specifically with Meri. And I always have, because she's the start. She's the catalyst. She's the beginning of this show. She's the beginning of this family. She allegedly helped start all of the other relationships on some level. And I need to know.
I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know. In every marriage, there's ups and downs, and you know, Kody and I have just had a little bit harder times recently, adding the, you know, Robin's courtship to it.
What is going on with her? I do believe she's holding a lot of secrets. I doubt she's ever going to bring them out and talk about them. I also think that Meri has done a lot of things that many of us would be ashamed to admit. That's my opinion. And so she's going to be careful what she talks about publicly, because she doesn't want too many people to start talking about her publicly. Just my opinion.
Has just put a little bit of strain. And so it's a really good time now to go spend some me and him time, and we're going to do it in Mexico.
Oh, me too, let's do it.
So Mary's mom became very interested in polygamy because her friend had moved out to Utah and started living in a polygamous community. According to Meri, her mother was specifically interested in it because she started studying the religion. It didn't have to do with like, oh, I just really, because I could see being like, right now I'm 40, like maybe we should get another young girl on board here, husband. She can help me out and, you know, be a friend to me, help me raise my kids. Like, I'm tired. I need some help around here. So according to Meri, her mom didn't have that kind of reasoning about it. She was specifically interested in it because of her religious beliefs. She started, quote unquote, studying the principle and believed that the principle really applied to her own life and she wanted to live it. So she convinced Mary's father to move out to Utah and investigate what was going on out there with this community.
Love you. How do I describe? What words can I tell or use to talk about our love and how deeply I feel for you?
Meri specifically writes, "It was my mother who urged my father to take his first plural wife. He did, and she joined the family when I was only 5. So still like a very young age. I guess Meri was only living in California until the age of 5. Now, Meri says she has very fond memories of this second wife who came on board when she was 5 years old. Keep in mind, Mary's mom would have been the first wife and Meri would have been the child of the first wife. And they had a second wife come on board. But unfortunately, the marriage was actually short-lived and the woman ended up leaving Mary's father rather quickly. But Meri remembers that she really enjoyed having this person as a part of her life.
And how important you are to me.
Not anymore, though.
To say that I'm...
Meri writes, "I didn't think there was anything strange about it. In fact, I was excited. I was a shy kid and didn't make friends easily. When I found out that the woman my father was courting was from a large polygamous family, I was so thrilled." Okay? So she goes on to say she was kind of a lonely person who struggled with making friendships, with having people around her. They had a small family. And when she thought about entering into a polygamous family and finally having other kids around and having family, she was excited and wanted to be a part of this. Now, interestingly enough, after this first wife left, Mary's family ended up exploding and growing rather rapidly because her father ended up taking on 4 more wives. I do not understand why a man would even want all of those wives. I don't get it. A lot of you will say like it's a sexual thing, it's about sex. Maybe it is, because I don't understand. How would you want to take on the emotional, financial, just all of the support that you would need to give to these other people by bringing them into your life? Like, you've got to figure out how to have a home for them. You've got to figure out how to help pay for the kids. Are you just not doing any of that? Are you not providing any financial and emotional support? According to Meri, her father was. And so it's very interesting to me that these men even want to go down this road of living this kind of lifestyle. Okay, friends, it's here where Meri, she really acknowledges that there was a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy in this community and in this family system. She writes, "I was in a slightly easier position than many of my siblings who came from my father's 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th marriages. Since I was the child of my father's first marriage, his legal one, it was simple and natural for my father to be my father in public. Since polygamy isn't widely accepted for the other kids, it could be more difficult to acknowledge their father publicly. To my father's credit, he owned and acted as a true father to every one of my brothers and sisters." Interesting. It looks like Meri is fully aware that though she liked this polygamous system, she liked being a part of this family, she clearly benefited from having been the child of the first wife. And then she became a first wife with only one child who seemingly, in my opinion, got an awful lot of attention, an awful lot of investment from the family, being the only child of the first wife. You have to wonder if it wasn't in her head, like, I'm only doing polygamy if I get to be the first wife.
Are you kidding?
Well, you looked like you were about to. Have a nice trip. See, I married my soulmate when I married Meri.
Meri says that growing up, she always assumed that she would just move on into the polygamist lifestyle. Like, that was how she was going to live her life. It was not a question for her. And she does say that she really loved her parents, and she feels like they granted her freedom to pursue her life the way that she wanted to. She says that they only had one rule, and that rule was that all the kids had to attend church with the family. But they did not have rules about, like, you must believe this religion, you must believe polygamy, you must live a certain way. It was more like, we want you to respect our family structure by attending church with us and then make your own decisions about how you are going to live. And this is where things take a little bit of a turn for Meri, and it's quite interesting for me. Meri says that she was very shy, she was lonely, she didn't have really friends outside of her church, and this was an issue for her until there was like a time of transition for her where she decided she needed to get a job. And she ended up working at a portrait studio, taking pictures, which we've seen how Meri is with pictures now. So that's kind of interesting. She ended up working at a portrait studio, and she became friendly with many coworkers. And it was her first time ever being around and creating friendships with people outside of the Mormon society, outside of polygamy. And she says, like, she got a very different view of how people live that she hadn't experienced before. And at this time, she finally began to question, am I going to live polygamy? Am I going to stay in this community? She had been a part of this very close-knit group of people, and now she's seeing that there's an outside to all of it, and she's trying to make a decision about which path she's going to go down. And guess who was meeting her on the path to polygamy? Mr. Kody Brown himself, okay? Enter Kody.
Meri and I are funny. Like two peas in a pod, we're genuinely in love, but we will fight like a brother and a sister that are teenagers. But, you know, we got in a pretty rough place at one point in our lives, and we had to assess this and say, are we committed to each other?
Okay? She's working at a portrait studio. She's trying to figure out her life. She's a young girl, 18 years old, and enter Kody Brown. I'm not going to go over Kody's childhood now. That's maybe for another video and something else we can focus on in the future. But I'm going to continue on with what Meri has to say about what happened when she met Kody. All right, Meri says that she first noticed Kody at church, and they were kind of like a very close-knit church, so people knew one another, and she had been going there for a long time, and a new face really stood out to her, and that face was the face of Kody Brown. All right, he was new to their church. She said that they just gave a brief hello, and she was curious and interested in who he was. She said that she was so quiet and shy, she felt like she had never really been noticed by other males in the church before, and it never occurred to her to pursue anyone romantically at this point in time. But then she went forward with attending a camp for girls who are part of polygamy, and there she met a girl named Christy, who was Kody's sister. And Christy was like sharing pictures of her brother and talking about him, and apparently Meri was like, oh, I remember him. I saw him at church. Okay, so now she kind of has this relationship with Kody's sister. And then a few months after camp ends, she gets back with Christy. They end up like going over to Christy's house, spending some time together. And that's when she runs into Kody again.
Yeah, we are. Okay. Are we committed to this marriage? Yeah, we are. Okay. But I don't like you right now. No, I don't like you either right now. Well, then what are we going to do? Let's make a choice to make our lives better. Meri and I have been through it. And now we're going for another 20 years of good marriage.
And Kody, as soon as Meri walks in the door, says, hi, Meri. You can imagine how Kody is, right? The way that he gives off like that outer exterior. He was like, hi, Meri. You're the Meri that my sister's always been talking about. Bing. Like, you know, I don't know, just like a really fabulous smile that he does, especially when he was younger. So interestingly enough, Meri says that she was blown out of the water by Kody because nobody had ever paid attention to her before. And here's this guy. He's gregarious. He's outgoing. He's blonde. You know, according to her, he's good looking. I mean, he did kind of look like a odd Ken doll when he was much younger, and she said she was really taken aback. People had not really paid much attention to her before, and here's this guy giving her all of this attention. He was extremely talkative and always engaged with her, and she was like, what? Someone wants to hear what I have to say? So I guess there was, we could call it almost love bombing going on. She ended up spending a lot of time with Kody and his sister. The three of them would go out together. She ended up really enjoying, it's the age-old story, she ended up really enjoying being around Kody. He made her heart race, and she wasn't sure what was going to happen until all of a sudden he started showing up at an awful lot of church events, and she kept seeing him there repeatedly. Her father met him, and she says, my father was an excellent judge of character and warmed to Kody immediately. My dad had a good handle on people. He had no problem with Kody and me hanging out, which soon became the description we jokingly used for our relationship. He knew me well enough to know that I would be appropriate with each other and knew he had nothing to worry about in my new relationship. Now that we had my father's approval, Kody and I could get to know each other in earnest. So now she also has her father, who's taken on 5 wives. So you got to wonder, like, what's going on with him. She also has her father, who's taken on 5 wives, who's like, hey, this Kody's a good guy. Good match for you, Meri. So she's interested in him. He's love bombing her, and she's got her dad saying, like, this is a good choice for you. So then Meri says, I'm not sure if Kody was just, like, really interested in our faith all of a sudden, or he was just interested in me, but now he's spending a lot of time at church. We're all getting to know him, and we all really like him, and he's a loud and enthusiastic presence at church. He's standing out to others around us. It's hard to miss him in the crowd. And everybody likes him. And that was like really attractive to Meri. She had never been a part of something like that. She had been a member of the church since she was 5 years old, and she was very quiet, and people didn't pay much attention to her or notice her. So this was a big thing for her. Now, classic Kody Brown. They are hanging out. She has her father's approval. She thinks something really special is going forward. And then suddenly Kody shows up at her door one day and they sit down for a talk. And Cody's like, just so that you know, I really like you. And I really enjoy our friendship. But I'm not ready to get involved with a girl right now. Love bomb, love bomb, love bomb. Just friends. Just friends. Meri. Is this how he reeled her in and got her so hooked that she would do anything for him, including catching all these other women for him and bringing them into the family? Yeah, he played that game. He literally said, I can't get involved in any relationships with girls right now. I like our friendship. Let's continue that. And she says, I was devastated. He started things out on the classic Kody Brown foot. So Meri, she goes back to her humdrum, not noticeable life, and she said, like, she understood that he didn't want to date anyone, but she hoped beyond hope that he would eventually change his mind. And then one day, out of nowhere, he approached her father and said, I'm interested in courting your daughter. What do you think about that? So they went from hanging out, like having this special relationship, to I'm not interested in any girls. I just want a friendship, to I just talked to your dad and he said I can have you. That was the progression. Kind of weird. Kody. From the beginning. He, here we are judging all these women, watching them fight amongst each other. We put a lot of frustration and hatred into like, oh, I really don't like Meri. Oh, I really hate Robin. Oh, they're such a bitch. She's a witch. I don't like this. I don't like that. But look who's been, strumming that fiddle from day one. Kody Brown. All right, there's no other explanation. There is literally, I'm just looking through, there's literally no explanation as to how they went from like, we have a relationship. I just want to be friends. I asked your dad and he said I can have you. There's no explanation for that. Okay, but Meri was ecstatic. She was so happy that he like changed his mind for whatever reason. And they decided to court, and she said they had a wonderful, magnificent courtship. They decided to spend Christmas with his family at the ranch in Wyoming. She had never been there, and she wanted to get to know his family a lot better. His family repeatedly asked while they were at the ranch, when are you guys getting married? And Meri states, finally I shot back with, well, he hasn't even asked me yet. More to tease Kody than anything else, and maybe to light a little fire under him. So manipulating from the start, trying to manipulate him back because he's already manipulating her. And then that night after dinner, they were sitting in the bunkhouse, and Kody asked in a nervous but cute way, I'm thinking we ought to get married. If you want to. I mean, I still just want to be friends. You want to get married? So confusing. Poor Meri. Interestingly, Meri was like, I don't know. Let me think about it. I guess Meri was a little bit like, she sensed there was some stuff going on. She says that it was kind of awkward because this was not the romantic proposal she had always dreamed of. Come on, Kody. She's a princess and she needed to be treated as such. She says she did want to marry him, but she was hoping for a real proposal, and he didn't do that. So we already have this mismatch of like, Meri wants certain things and they're not happening, but she's still going to marry him. Like, this guy doesn't want to be romantic towards you. This guy does not want to be your Prince Charming that sweeps you off your feet. He's saying, I guess we could be friends. Okay, we'll just get married. So I guess he's not that into you. And I think she kind of felt that, but just wanted to make it happen because this is the first person to really pay attention to her. Yeah, kind of sad. So she says, like, even though she wanted to marry Kody, she decided she needed to take some time for introspection and speak to God and see what he really wanted her to do. If he wanted her to marry this guy that didn't ride in on a white horse and whisk her off, to her Cinderella castle. So she talks to God about it, and then they go ring shopping. Perfect. They go shopping for a ring. Oh my gosh, we heard all about the ring-a-ding-ding on this past episode with the tell-all, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to get into this. So I guess she's agreeing. Well, she's saying that during the time that she was trying to validate her feelings with God, they went ring shopping. So they go ring shopping and they find a ring that they both really like, but they decide not to get it and just keep looking because they're not sure how they feel about everything. Wow. Okay. This is very mirrored in what we're hearing now in the tell-all. It's like they're kind of, Meri's taken aback by him. She wants him to love her. She loves the idea of him being so outgoing and gregarious and handsome and looking like the perfect polygamous blonde-haired, blue-eyed Ken doll. And she likes that idea of her marrying him and them having kids and having the perfect family. But he's not that into her, But she's kind of like, I feel it. I see you're not into me. And I want you to be a little bit more romantic and do all this shit for me. And you're not going to do it, but I'm going to marry you and hope that one day you will. Sad for Meri, for sure. Okay, so then on Christmas Eve, finally, Kody steps up and he officially asks Meri to marry him. He seemed really nervous, probably because, Meri, I'm sorry he wasn't that into you, and it's really sad. He sounded shy and embarrassed and not at all like his usual self when he asked me to marry him this time. He handed me the jewelry box without opening it or taking the ring out. So it kind of sounds like she was like, I need you to redo that proposal. Make it more befitting of a princess. And so he's probably like, I gotta go take care of this. So he handed her the jewelry box without opening it or taking the ring out, almost as if he was delivering a package. I thought it was sweet how nervous and unpracticed he was. And she said to him, you're supposed to take the ring out and present it to me, not just hold the box. Mirrored in everything that we've seen in the Sister Wives. Like, Meri wanted to marry herself because she wanted everything to be done a specific way. And if it wasn't done exactly the way she wanted, it wasn't going to be good enough. And so when Kody came to her and was kind of like, I'm not that into you, but it seems like the church is telling me I should marry you, and my dad says I should make it happen because he's worried I'm a sissy honestly. Okay, do you want to get married? She's like, oh, no. Let's do that again. Cut! Action! Cut! Let me explain to you how you're going to do this proposal. Right? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, now, action! Start again. She's trying to orchestrate this relationship into being what she had always hoped that it would be, and it never was that. It's right here. It's in this book, Becoming Sister Wives. You're supposed to take the ring out and present it to me, not just hand me the box. I told him. But I was just giving him a hard time. I was thrilled that Kody had asked me to be his wife. I was completely in love with him. I knew that he was my soulmate and that we were destined for each other as long as he always followed all of my instructions to the T. We had a strong foundation of friendship to build on. Okay, so they were friends. I was excited to finally be engaged to him and looking forward to becoming his wife. Then in true Kody Brown fashion, he once again jumped way ahead of himself. He'd asked me to marry him before he'd received full consent from my father. The next day, Kody called my dad. The two of them agreed. Okay. He did it wrong again. He did the proposal, but didn't officially ask the father. So Meri had to fix that. Kody then goes on to talk about how he felt about Meri, and it is kind of what you would expect it to be. He's like, yeah, I was interested in Meri. I was a little bit worried about it because in the past, when I had been with other girls, well, he doesn't say girls. In the past, when I had been with other past infatuations, in every one of my past infatuations, I have been able to explore the possibility of a chemical connection through a kiss. But I hadn't done this with Meri simply because it wasn't appropriate by the standards of the church and the faith that we were in. Okay? So he's a little concerned because they haven't tried things out and like his past infatuations allowed him to experiment. So, he wasn't sure how this was going to work out. Meri and Kody were married on April 22nd, 1990, and they had a very, according to Meri, very special private wedding ceremony and a traditional wedding reception, which I'm sure Meri orchestrated down to the T, guys. Okay. I had my heart set on Kody wearing a white tuxedo, which he did. So he did what she asked him to do. So she was very controlling. Kody and I chose to spend our wedding night at our new home. It felt special to us, and then we began our intimate lives together in our own home rather than in a hotel room. So she's making it clear that she, supposedly was a virgin. We were deeply and passionately in love with each other. There was no awkwardness between us. Everything just felt like it was as it should be. They were going to go on a honeymoon together, but unfortunately, Meri got really sick, and she says it was because she was so stressed out about the wedding, and it was so hard. All right, so they stayed home and spent time together until she felt better, and then they did go out for a honeymoon where they just kind of went, it sounds like they just drove to Idaho. They drove to Idaho and it was spontaneous and unplanned, and they just drove and found somewhere to stay. They went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming as well. They just kind of drove around. They did sightseeing and a little tourism. That's nice. I think that that's nice. Okay, and then when their honeymoon was over, Kody and I settled down in a town called American Fork. And it was near Salt Lake City, and they began their life together. The rest of this chapter is a little bit about how Kody and Meri were very financially, irresponsible with each other. They basically lived like kids. They only cared about what was, directly in front of them. They would get jobs and just leave the job. They didn't have anywhere to live. They were running out of money all the time. They weren't very serious about life in general, and Meri was just kind of like, but those were the good old days, And I think that's then enters Janelle because they needed someone to be their mommy. Let's be honest, Kody and Meri needed a mommy. Wow, okay, that's a lot to digest and think about. There's so much more in this book. I'm going to do some more videos about it as we go through the tell-all. It's interesting to think about all of this in context of what happened with Meri and Kody 18 seasons down the line. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We have so much to discuss. Leave me some comments below. What do you think? Have you already read this? Is any of this surprising to you? I didn't know. I never really took the time to look back at some of it. It's only recently that I've looked into it. So I want to say thank you so much for heading down this rabbit hole with me tonight. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow when we head down yet another rabbit hole.